Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Tuesday, September 10th. Mike Tomlin will speak today on the South Side to talk about the Steelers' Week 2 game against the Denver Broncos. We're going to talk about something a little bit different, kind of get out of the week to week here very quickly, because there's something it came up a lot yesterday when the Steelers re-signed a strong safety, Terrell Edmonds. And TE is one of those players that I think has been a victim of this over his entire career. I just want to talk about it. And so I think for whatever reason, I think people have a hard time separating acquisition cost from ability in players. And we see this all the time. We're going to talk about a couple examples. But first, I'm just going to give a non-football example of what I'm talking about. If you have, let's pick this week's favorite prop, a can of Sprite that you purchased at Walmart. It comes in the big case. That's something that you are aware of its quality, and you feel like you paid the appropriate value for it. Now, let's say you're flying Spirit, you fool, and they're going to charge you $3.95 for a can of Sprite on the plane. Okay, still 12-ounce can, but now you're just going to pay a lot more for it. Or maybe you get a free one because you donated blood and that's what you're washing down your animal crackers with, right? So in all three cases, the can of Sprite is identical. The quality of the product is the same. One you paid the going rate, one you paid more, and one you paid significantly less, right? What you paid for it does not change the value or the quality of that can of Sprite. You could spend $3.95 on that Spirit flight, not drink it, come home, and theoretically, I don't know who would buy a can of Sprite on Facebook Marketplace, but theoretically, you could sell that can of Sprite for the same as it always costs at Walmart because that's the going rate. Same thing with your free Sprite from the blood bank, right? So it doesn't change the quality. The $4 Sprite doesn't taste any better, and the free Sprite doesn't taste any worse. We understand this when we talk about goods. We have a hard time, I think, with this when we're talking about people. A lot of times people think that you get what you pay for. And well, sometimes you do. We've just proven that sometimes you don't. And sometimes you make a poor decision. Flying Spirit, for example, but that doesn't make the poor decision doesn't change the quality of the product purchased. So Terrell Edmonds, let's talk about him. An absolute disaster of a first round pick. One of the absolute worst of Kevin Colbert's tenure as a Steelers general manager. No one was going to take Terrell Edmonds before the middle of the second round at the earliest. Strong safety is not a premium position around the NFL and really has never been. And while the Steelers didn't have a lot of needs, they certainly should have had the flexibility to move up and down the draft to find a better use for their first round pick than an in the box strong safety. That's what they paid, okay? The Steelers paid $4 for their can of Sprite. But what they got in Terrell Edmonds was a pretty good box safety. He's really good at covering tight ends. He's a pretty good tackler. He's been a productive player in the NFL for a really long time. And now he's back with the Steelers after having a hard time finding a better fit somewhere else. The reason for that is one of the big reasons why drafting a strong safety in the first round was a bad idea in the first place. Most of the rest of the league is transitioning to playing a lot more two high safety. They're putting two people that are like free safeties in the game at the same time. So what the Steelers do when they play DeMonte KZ with Minkah Fitzpatrick, when they want to have that two high look that they can, the cover two is probably the most popular defense in the NFL right now. The Steelers still, however, use their strong safety in traditional ways. The Steelers are traditionally a cover three team where you have corner, safety, corner across the back of the secondary, and that strong safety is down in the box. He's lined up on a tight end or running back, and he has significant run defense responsibilities. A two high safety means both safeties are 10 to 12 yards off the ball. It does not matter how good of a tackler you are, how good you are at shedding blocks. If you are 12 yards off the ball, if you're getting blocked 12 yards off the ball, the play is over, and it doesn't matter, right? You're not man-to-man covering a tight end 12 yards off the ball. It just doesn't happen. And so the skill sets are different, and the skill set that Terrell Edmonds has, the same skill set that Deshaun Elliott has, is not really in demand around the league, which is why Terrell Edmonds, since he left Pittsburgh, has had a hard time finding work. That's why when the Steelers had his fifth-year option come up, they very correctly declined it and then brought him back at a lesser amount because not that many people want him. But that doesn't make him bad. He's still the same can of Sprite. The Steelers paid a lot for him at the beginning, and now they're not going to pay very much for him at all. They're going to sign him off Jacksonville's practice squad, and they're going to owe him 3 weeks of guaranteed salary at the veteran minimum. He's gotten older in that time period, but he is still the same player. And I think we do this a lot. Like Najee Harris, I've talked a ton about how bad of a draft pick Najee Harris was for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2021. You could argue nearly as bad as Terrell Edmonds in 2018. I think Najee Harris is a better player, but it doesn't change the math, right? Najee Harris is who he is, whether you would have drafted him in the first round or the seventh round. The first round was a bad deal. The seventh round was a good deal, but he is still a good running back. Like, I see people out there that can't seem to separate the criticism of the Steelers should not have picked Najee Harris in the first round from Najee Harris is bad. No, the Steelers shouldn't have taken Najee Harris in the first round because the market for the running back position does not demand that you do that to get a quality player. Just like you don't need to pay $4 to get a can of Sprite. You did. That was a mistake. Okay, now the Steelers drafted Najee Harris in the first round. They did not compound that mistake. They are letting him go. They're going to let him walk. They're not going to. They did not accept his 5th-year option. They're not going to re-sign him to a contract. I don't believe. They're not going to repeat that mistake. That's fine, but none of that changes the player they got, who is a pretty good running back. He's had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Very durable, pretty good pass blocker, a way underrated pass catcher who would have done a lot more of that if they hadn't found a better one in Jaylen Warren. Najee Harris is a very good player. He is just not worth what the Steelers paid. I'll give you another example. Dante Jackson. The Dante Jackson trade for the Steelers was terrible because it completely, they did not get anywhere near the value that Dante Johnson had in return. Dante Johnson would have been one of the better wide receivers on the open market. As we've seen, there is a massive shortage of wide receivers on the open market. If the Steelers had held on to Dante Johnson, they certainly would have gotten more for him. In fact, they probably would have been able to make the Brandon Ayuk trade if they had held on for him. That trade was a bad move by Omar Khan. But that doesn't make Dante Jackson a bad player. He just was not worth what they paid. He is, as we saw in the first game against the Atlanta Falcons, a quite good player. He's very fast. He's good at coverage. He brings a lot of important things to the table for the secondary. I think he is going to be a critical addition, but they overpaid. So I just think it's important when we're talking about these players. I'm going to sit here and harp on Terrell Edmonds was a bad first-round pick. Najee Harris was a bad first-round pick. Dante Jackson was a poor trade acquisition. But that does not make them bad players. And Terrell Edmonds is a really good player. Terrell Edmonds might be the best backup strong safety in the entire NFL right now. Najee Harris is a really good player. He's a really good running back. He's probably going to get paid a lot by someone else. Let them make the mistake. And Dante Jackson is a really good starting corner. So just keep that in mind when you're talking about players and their evaluation. I think it is something that we struggle with as a football collective, and something that I've certainly noticed in the last 12 hours or so since Steelers brought Terrell Edmonds back. That's it for now. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on YouTube so you don't miss a thing. We'll have more from Mike Tomlin on the South Side at noon, and then I'll be back here on the YouTube channel and wherever you find podcasts with Zachary Smith this afternoon for another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.